what needs to be done to bring the sport up to the levels where it was. And this week, we've got a group of young Kenyans who are going to be traveling to Europe, and this is for the World Canoeing Championship Series, and so we are going to be having that conversation with them on that. And also, we're going to start our conversation right now with Paralympic sport. And time for me to introduce my guest this morning. He's the Secretary General of the Kenya National Paralympic Committee, Stanley Mutuma. Stanley, welcome.
Thank you very much, Wahome. Good morning, viewers. Thank you.
Thank you. And, you know, just to put it into context, is that the current office holders of the Kenya National Paralympic Committee, they were elected just 2 years ago, and we're going to be looking just not at the Paralympics Kenya calendar for 2025, but also, you know, at some of the milestones they've achieved. And so, SG, you know, basically just give us a whole outlook for the last 2 years coming into office, and at the same time, you know, having a challenge, given that over the past 2 Paralympic Games,
yes,
Kenya has just brought 2 medals. In fact, the last one in Paris was the unexpected one from Samson Ojuka.
Thank you very much, Wahome. Yeah, just like you have mentioned, we came into office on the 26th of May, 2023. That is slightly over 2 years back. And as many of you in the sports fraternity would know, Paralympics had a bit of a challenge, similar to many other sports federations, in terms of governance. And of course, this was reflecting poorly in the performance. But as many of the stakeholders in the sporting fraternity would know, when you talk to people like from the Ministry of Sports, the Sports Fund, the National Olympic Committee of Kenya, and you in the sports arena, the journalist, you will find that indeed there's been a tremendous change and improvement in terms of governance, such that now really the Paralympics has turned a corner for the good, and it has opened a new chapter in terms of governance.
Well, let me just come to that governance part, because, you know, it's for very many sports, it just doesn't sound like it's top of the agenda at any one point. What is it that you have done at KNPC to ensure that governance structures are right?
Thank you very much. Myself, first and foremost, being a lawyer by profession, I understand the importance of governance and how that plays in terms of transmitting to issues performance. Because when you don't have proper governance, just like you have mentioned, similarly to many other sports federations, then you find that there is insistent wrangles, which then affect the whole life cycle of sports. Issues from trials to issues of accountability to issues of planning for competitions. So that transmits to the athletes. But of course, when you have proper governance, you have proper meetings, you have proper minutes, communication with the stakeholders, then you find that these partnerships really counts for a lot. So for example, to go back to your initial question, what we have done so far in the sports, and also looking at the historic of the lackluster performance in the last 2 Olympics. I can start by saying that you see that the last time Kenya was doing very well was in the 2012 London Paralympic Games, Beijing 2008, and Rio 2016.
Yes.
But you can see these players are the ones who have been there since that time. People like Samuel Mushai, 1500, 5000, people like Wilson B, people like Nelly Nasimio. So you can see that age was also catching up, and perhaps there was no national trials to recruit new athletes. So definitely the performance was going to take a dip. And then with the insistent court battles and all those things that I mentioned. But you see now, Banahome, just to bring the viewers to speed, all this has changed, and we really thank the board, led by our president, Mr. Ronald Milare, and the other board members who are very, very committed and professionals in their own right, that we have been able to turn a corner. And I shall explain the steps we have taken to ensure that this is righted. Thank you.
All right. So let's talk about, because you mentioned something very interesting, because we know at one point you would technically name the Kenya Paralympics team off head for very many people.
Yes,
but what's the work being done to rebuild, recruit youngsters, such that there's a lot of big competition. There is more competition in parasport.
Absolutely. That's a very good observation. You being a seasoned journalist in sports, you understand that unless the federations go to the mashinani and do the recruitment, we cannot. And that's what we embarked on doing. So when we came in 2023, we started with the national trials, and the first one was held at the Kericho Green Stadium. That was in November of 23. Then subsequently, we followed it up with another one at the Kipkeino Stadium in Eldoret in January. 3 days, it was very well attended. We had officiators from Athletics Kenya. And from there, we kept on building, and the interest started to grow. And finally, we had a very, very successful one this year in January at the Kenyatta University, where we have had now a partnership agreement with the Kenyatta University so that we can be able to utilize their facilities and their personnel in terms of expertise.
Actually, I'll be coming to partnerships a little bit later, but let's just stick with athletics at the moment.
Yeah.
Qualification for Los Angeles begins now for the LA Games of 2028. So you've got the World Athletics Championships. Just take us through this and how you intend to see the athletes qualify.
Thank you very much. Absolutely. And you see from what we have mentioned about the trials, we've received over 400 new athletes. So basically, we can see that 90% of all the athletes now coming through for the championships are young people. Some born as in 2000, 2004. Some as young as 18 years, 16 years, 20 years, 24 years. So these are absolutely young people, and we believe this is the future. So in terms of qualification, you can see right from when we finished last year the Paralympic Games in Paris, we embarked on this chapter of getting young people, which we agreed with the Ministry of Sports. That's our main sponsor, headed by Director Indako, a very good friend, and all the technical officers, that we must get young people on board. This is what we have done, Bwana Wahome. And I can tell you that in this year, we had the Grand Prix, the IPC, International Paralympic Committee Grand Prix in Dubai. That was in February. 24 athletes went. And like I've mentioned, 95% were young people. We emerged number 3 with 16 medals out of 47 countries. You can see the improvement. Subsequently, we took another bunch of young people to Morocco. This was recently in April. There were 21 athletes, and we emerged second out of 46 countries, second only to Morocco, the host, with 24 medals. So you can see this is a build-up. This is a build-up towards LA, because later in the year we shall have the Athletics World Championship. Athletics World Championship, this shall be in New Delhi, India. Dates from 26th September to 5th October. And I want to encourage the Kenyans to support and really be keen on this, because this is a direct qualifier for the Los Angeles 2028 Olympic and Paralympic Games.
All right, thank you. Yes, we've got the Secretary General of the Kenya National Paralympic Committee, who is with us this morning, talking about their calendar of events and also building up towards LA 2028. But now let's move and listen to Principal Secretary for the Interior, Dr. Raymond Omolo, who is speaking on Small Arms Conference. Okay, we apologize for that breaking sound, and that is the Forum of Government Experts on Small Arms conference that's happening, and speaking is the Principal Secretary, State Department for the Interior, Dr. Raymond Omolo, and we apologize for that breaking sound. We continue with our conversation, and this is on Sports Check, and gives a pleasure to introduce our sign language interpreter, who is Susan Thuku at the moment. And we are with the Secretary General of the Kenya National Paralympic Committee, Stanley Mutumba, and speaking about the calendar of events building up towards the Paralympic Games Los Angeles 2028. Another sport where we've seen Kenya excel is powerlifting, basically weightlifting for Paralympic athletes. And we've got the World Cup coming up in the week. Easy name to pick out here always, Helen Wawira.
Yes, thank you, Wahome. That has been the synonymous name with powerlifting. And as a Secretary General, I've been really keen to push the people who are involved, the coaches.
Okay.
the technical people in terms of para-powerlifting, that we need to see more people coming through. So like you mentioned, we have the World Powerlifting World Cup coming up in Beijing, China. This is from the 19th to the 25th of June this month. That is in 2 weeks' time. And
okay, let me just interrupt you, SG.
Yes, yes.
Let's move over to the Forum of Government Experts on Small Arms, where Principal Secretary Raymond Molo is speaking at the moment.
At the local, regional, and global level. Distinguished delegates, it also demands renewed strategies and strengthened cooperation amongst us. And your presence here affirms our collective commitment to this cause. But let us be clear that the core problem is not just the weapons themselves or lack of policies. The real issues are in the porosity of our borders, weak enforcement, and poor coordination, all of which allow the flow of these weapons. Needless to say, these structural weaknesses undermine both national sovereignty and regional peace. We clearly understand the nature of the threat. It sounds normal in certain instances, but allow me to restate that no single nation can overcome this threat alone, and every delay results in more lives that are lost and families that are displaced. We must operate from a place of both urgency and unity. What we now require are practical, coordinated, and actionable responses, which would allow us to track and disrupt illicit arms flow, to strengthen national control systems, to improve intelligence and information sharing, to update legislative and regulatory frameworks, and also to be able to equip REXA and its member states with the tools necessary for rapid and effective action. A key agenda item in the review is the review of the agreement establishing REXA and its funding mechanism. And I'm happy to note that the Executive Secretary and his team has been able to find time to visit a number of member states. And part of these visits were meant to get the recommitment from the member states on the ideals of REXA, not just in terms of supporting its funding, but also living up to some of the decisions that have been made in previous REXA meetings. 2 decades on, the regional security context has shifted, and so REXA must shift both its legal and financial architecture. I want to urge you to critically consider the recommendations that came from the 15th Technical Advisory Committee meeting that was held in November last year. We need to ask ourselves some of these questions. One, is the legal framework still fit for purpose? Is the funding model sustainable? And 3, how can we enhance resource mobilization from member states and our partners? And as we deliberate on these issues, your recommendations will be vital in shaping a more agile, well-resourced, and mandate-driven REXA, one capable of meeting its present and future obligations. We know that a number of the member states have not been consistent in their contributions. How do we address this? And as the experts, you have all the answers on how to do this. Our engagement with our partners, are we getting the maximum or the most that we should be getting based on our mandate as REXA? What are some of the things that our partners want to see from us? So that when we have the engagement and the conversations, then they see that we are actually living up to what, or the commitments that we make to them. And because of the reality of the world today that has shifted, even when you think about how our security is being managed and also how we are constantly dealing with threats, how we are using technology, have we also moved as REXA to live to those realities of changes that we experience today?
And that is the Principal Secretary, State Department of the Interior, Dr. Raymond Dumolo, speaking. And this is at the official opening of the Forum of Government Experts on Small Arms and Light Weapons that is taking place in Nairobi. So that's a story that Yusuf Farah will be covering for us. We get back to a conversation, and this is about Parasport, and we're with the Secretary General of the Kenya National Paralympic Committee, Stanley Mutuma. And Stanley Mutuma, let's talk about other sports where we're seeing some growth. Badminton, you've been allowed to do that. Right. You know, badminton is in the doldrums in Kenya, but you are allowed to have them. Correct. And you've got an event coming up in Dubai. Correct.
Thank you very much, Home. Just as I was finishing up on the powerlifting, I was saying that we're also pushing so that we can have new athletes. And apart from the 6 who are traveling to Beijing for the World Cup, we have another competition in Egypt later in the year, in the month of October. And here we want to bring youngsters who are coming from the schools, Joytown, in Thika, schools also in Kisumu. And we want to bring a new generation, just like you have mentioned earlier, just to finish off on the powerlifting. So I can tell Kenyans you'll be expecting to see better performances and more invigorated young people coming through those sports.
Okay. So, well,
coming now to the badminton,
yes.
As you rightly put, you know, the Badminton Federation of Kenya is not in good standing with its international federation, but they have allowed the para-badminton to come through. And earlier in the year, in January, we took a total of 7 athletes to Egypt. They did very well with 7 medals, a gold medal, 4 silvers, and 2 bronze. And this performance, we believe it's also part of the qualifiers and we are very strong in the para-badminton. We have people like Stenzio Bonyo and others. So we believe that in the upcoming event in Dubai and Nigeria in November, we shall be able to have these people qualify for the LA so that we have a bigger number of disciplines participating in these sports.
Okay. Well, actually, let me also bring in another one, including your vice chair. I mean, parachuting. This is another one.
Yeah. Many people will not be aware, but now we have the parachuting where you have the rifle and the air pistol that also para athletes are taking place in, led by our Vice Chairman, Mr. Bavit Chudasama, who is in charge of that department. Right now we have a number of athletes coming through very well. Also we have people from the security forces who have been maybe injured in the course of duty, and they get rehabilitated and they perform these sports. Just to mention, Banahome, yesterday I visited the club, the shooting club at Langata, the range. There was the Kenya Sports Shooting Federation tournament, which included both the para and the able. And I was able to meet them with their coach, the police officer, Mr. Maurice Morara, and the other officials from the range. And the policemen were very happy. In fact, they requested that as the National Federation, we do a letter requesting the IG to give them permission to be training, because they are very keen also to get out there. And we have a competition, international competition in LLA in Dubai in November, which we hope to take around 6 or so of our athletes.
Very interesting. Another sport that we saw and is paracycling. We saw that there was a team in Paris last year. Yes. What's the status on this?
Yeah, that was the first time we had a paracycling team in Paris. I know this is my umbrella federation, the Kenya Cycling Federation. So I'm very keen on that, also being a tandem cyclist earlier on. We took a team to Egypt. This is last month from the 5th to the 11th, the African Championship, and outrightly we were the shining stars there apart from South Africa. So it's a very good sport that is coming up very well. Our biggest challenge here is because it's an equipment sport. So, yes, you know, purchase of these bicycles, the tandem bicycles, which are specialized bikes. I'm sure many people might have seen on television 2 people riding on one bike. Very interesting. So that's called tandem bike for the visually impaired, and the C category, the one leg amputee like that. So here we are looking to engage more with the ministry and our stakeholders like the National Olympic Committee to purchase more bikes, because we believe that in early 2028 we want to have not only 1 or 2 cyclists but maybe a minimum of 6 or 7, which we believe is very much possible. And also, Bwana Ahmed, just to tell you and the viewers, we are very happy that a lot of ladies and female athletes are coming on board in the different sports, which is totally very encouraging. Yeah.
Well, and I would like to now bring in, it's very interesting. People are not, people hardly talk about this, but also motorsport. We've got Nikhil Sachania. He's doing very well.
Yeah.
What are the opportunities in that area?
Absolutely, and we are happy with the Kenya Commercial Bank, KCB, for supporting Mr. Nikhil. And recently I had a discussion with the director of KCB Foundation. This is Madam, I'm forgetting her name. Yeah, director of KCB, Mendi Njonjo. Actually, she's Mendi Njonjo. We had supported the Joytown Inter-Schools game in February, and we had a discussion with Madam Mendi Njonjo, director KCB Foundation. And she informed me that now, apart from supporting only the KCB is also going to enter into an MOU with the Paralympics so that they can be able also to advance the sport, because they can see the good thing that is happening there.
Okay.
So it shows that also persons with disability can engage in any sport, and I would like to urge parents, guardians, and people in the mashinani, when you have a child who is interested in sports, just when we have the trials or just reach out to us so that we can be able to see how this child can be assisted, and this will have a positive impact, not only in that child's life, but also in the family and the community at large.
Now, let's talk about partnerships, because you bring in the fact that, your KCB Foundation have come in, they've supported you at Joytown.
Yeah.
You've mentioned about Kenyatta University offering their facilities and also expertise through personnel. What are the, basically the incoming kind of support that you're getting at the moment?
Absolutely. Like I said, once we started to get our act together from last when we came in, so last year we had a good engagement with East Africa Breweries, that's KBL. They gave us some good sponsorship, 5 million. Also, Safaricom came in through with a good sponsorship, both in cash and in kind, as we are gearing up towards the Paris Games. And this partnership is likely to continue because we are now engaging with other international sports agencies like the kits, those providers of kits. We want to enter an engagement with Essex to provide kits when we have these major international games. And it shows that really they have the trust and confidence in our organization. So another partnership you're talking about is issues like Kenyatta University, because they are very good facilities. You remember they hosted the youth games a while back?
Yes.
So they have a very good...
there were accommodation for the under-18 World Championships 2017, I think, and also the under-20.
Correct. So you see, when you have that, you have the very nice grounds there, the running tartan, you have the gymnasium there, you have the swimming pool there, all in one. So it's very good for our athletes that they are contained there. And we have this MOU with the Kenyatta University. And very much we give our thanks to Mr. Dr. Daniel Njenga, the Director of Sports, for that kind of support. We also in talking terms and engagement with the Kenya Academy of Sports. This is one of the institutions that is set up by the Sports Act to advance and promote sports in Kenya, which these relationships, remember, they were not there before. So now we have that, and so far we have had 3 trainings of our coaches in Mombasa, in Eldoret recently, and in the Western region. So they are training our coaches in the advanced sports mechanism. So you can see all these are geared towards improving and advancing issues of Paralympic sports in the country.
Well, so, and maybe as a final word for you, SG.
Yes, sir.
Basically, what would you like to make, you've mentioned it, but it's a call to see Kenya earn more medals again at the Para Games, so that, we don't look at a table and it looks like, some betting odds 0-1-0.
True. Yeah, true. We really want to restore Kenya's glory as a sporting nation, also in the Paralympics. Remember, there's a time when people would look more favorably at the Paralympics during the Olympic as opposed to the Olympics.
Yes.
So now we want to restore back where we hope maybe to get not less than 11 or 12 medals in the Los Angeles Games, God willing. And we know it's a lot of hard work, but we thank the Ministry of Sports tremendously, and of course His Excellency the President, because the head of government, for really supporting us as our major sponsor. And we also thank the other partners in the fraternity, even the media, for giving the positive publicity. And we believe through these partnerships and a lot of hard work, we can be able to restore our country to where it was.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much. He's Stanley Mutuma. He is the Secretary General of the Kenya National Paralympic Committee. And by the way, his day job is that he's also an advocate of the High Court. So